episode 21 of Race Central Unplugged. Kurt, we are ready to rock today. I'm Sydney Corra, producer of Race Central, right next to longtime motorsports insider Kurt Hansen. Kurt, what's up?
Well, this is the hang loose for Hawaii, so we're hanging loose.
Yeah.
Lots is up, and good to see you, kiddo. Wow. We talked about it a lot last week on the program. Certainly the Chicago street race. I think a lot of people were not exactly sure what to expect, and then of course the weather came in, and the Xfinity race. It gave me a little bit for concern. Now the Xfinity race was good racing; everybody minded their P's and Q's pretty well. And then they went red flag, I believe, right at the end of stage 2, I think. But I watched some of it off and on, but it was really good racing, and I was really excited to see what was going on. And I had concerns for the weather in Chicago because it's the middle of the country. This time of year, it's kind of like Denver. I mean, it can be a beautiful sunshine like it is right now, and then be raining cats and dogs in 2 minutes and go on that way all day. So that gave me a little bit of concern. But Sunday, when I tuned it in and saw that everything was pretty much copacetic, and again, the same thing in the Cup race. Everybody minded their P's and Q's, quite nicely until they really started to figure it out. And the guy that figured it out, obviously the best, is a guy that has, many Aussie V8 Supercar championships, Shane Van Gisbergen. And I really was not that surprised to see what Shane did, because Aussie V8 Supercars they're not similar to a NASCAR Cup car, but they are similar in the sense that they are much more similar to the next gen car, which we have now, obviously, than the car we had in the past. Now, could Shane have done that in the streets of Chicago with the old car? I don't think so. But this is a guy you have to remember, multiple time Aussie V8 Supercar champion, and the Supas, as we call them, are some of the best road racing you can imagine anywhere. Very aggressive. Everybody's up on the wheel from corner 1, and they do a lot of bumping and banging. The Supers are much more like I would say maybe an IMSA, like an IMSA Corvette or something along those lines of production-based cars, because they're production-based, but then of course highly refined and tuned and changed to be what we know as an Aussie V8 Supercar. But the Supers, again, I think are more akin to the next gen car than the car that we had in the past. But Shane did a great job. He managed his tires impeccably. That you have to do in the Supers, because they're big, high horsepower cars with tires that aren't that big. Now, they're purpose-built race tires, but if you drive the skins off the car won't turn, stop, or accelerate. So you got to take care of your tires. And he did that. And, of course, the rain helped a little bit, too, because kept the temperatures down. And, the guy just did a terrific job in a car he'd never driven before. And here's the funny thing. His good friend, Scott McLaughlin, who drives for Roger Penske, obviously in the IndyCar series, they're very good friends. They raced together in the supercars for quite a long time. And a little recent history, Roger bought with a partner a team in the Aussie V8 Supercar series about 4 or 5 years ago that Scott McLaughlin ended up driving for. And I believe that year did win a championship. It was a Shell-backed car. How interesting. Penske has a deep relationship with Shell. I mean, the captain is the captain. And then he brought Scott McLaughlin to America for Indy cars. And it took a little while for Scott to figure it out, but a very, very good driver. And lo and behold, here we go. But it was a great race. I love especially as the race wound down, the whole backdrop of the city and the crowd and the people. A lot of people poo-pooed it, but it's like anything in the world. So, half the people are going to hate it, half the people are going to love it. Now, it seems like, well, individuals.
What do they have to say about that?
Probably people that are more of the hardcore ilk. Like, well, hey, you spent all this money going racing in the streets of Chicago. How come we're not, spending more money to bring back North Wilkes or whatever? But it is, and a lot of people did comment, why is NASCAR becoming more like IndyCar and Formula One? Well, guess what? Because it works. Street races, big crowds, carnival festival effect, backdrops, lots to do, and much like people that poo-pooed Long Beach way back in the day, Long Beach has become, as I call it, the Monte Carlo of American open wheel racing, and it's a party that a race breaks out at, and it works. Formula One has learned that these street races work big time in that effect. Evidence the Miami Grand Prix, evidence what will happen at the end of this year in Las Vegas. It's temporary street circus, Formula One cars through the high rises in Las Vegas. It just works. And I think NASCAR is trying to find a way to make it less like good old boy racing at North Wilkesboro or Bristol, and make it more fan
they're trying
appealing.
to expand the audience.
And it's working. I mean, a lot of people did, man. They took their kids and just check it out, and now they're hooked. And I can almost assure you, Julie Geis and her team will be efforting to put on another street race. Maybe they'll do it again back in Chicago, because the early reviews from the folks of Chicago and Illinois, pretty positive deal. And I for one loved it. It was different. It was new. It was compelling. It was must see TV. And that's what NASCAR needs. But there'll always be people who poo-poo it. I liked it. We'll talk about it today more on the program, but I thought it was really cool.
Yeah, I mean, they're clearly making an effort. I mean, you can even tell, like, in the advertising and like the promotion for the race, like, and other NASCAR races too. I feel like the marketing and the promotion this year is amped up for sure. And
they want people like you and your demographic coming and liking NASCAR. They're grooming their future fans, and I think they're doing a pretty good job of it, frankly.
Yeah, and I'm one of those people that, like, I'm a gatekeeper per se, like, so I can imagine like those old heads like being pissed off about it, but I really think about it and I'm like, dude, if I was like an OG NASCAR fan, I don't know if I'd be upset by this, because like, this is what I'm saying, it brings up a good argument. Like, if you're an old head NASCAR fan, do you like this or do you not like it, and why? Like, I feel like you should like it.
Well, you can't tell people what to think, and the old guard, old turn slower than new boats, especially with their young, speedy boats. So, I talked to a good friend of mine the other day, one of the old guards. He said, I hated it, didn't like it. I think that's more than anything else because his guy, Kevin Harvick, kind of pooped the bed towards the end of the race. But, he didn't like it. And I was not surprised at all. I knew when I asked him, hey, Derek, what'd you think of Chicago? I hated it. Hope it never comes back. It was a waste of time and money. So it is what it is. The old guard, I mean, oh my goodness. I just crashed and burned in the streets of Chicago. We'll have Joe Starr on the show today. Easy for me to say, and I guarantee he'll piss all over it. It's just
oh really?
Oh, Photo Joe, yeah, oh yeah. Wait do you see? You're Sid the Kid. You're the producer of the ESPN radio show, and Joe Starr will piss all over it.
Come on, Joe.
Oh, no. Yeah, no. Joe thinks that we should be spending hundreds of millions of dollars to renovate the tracks from eras past and bring back racing to those areas that the reason they failed, nobody wanted to go there anymore. So why would we spend a bunch of money to point people to go to a place they'd stopped going to 20 years ago anyway? Yeah. That's like a bad restaurant upping their marketing budget so they can point more people to their crappy food.
Yeah, because that's the thing is, like, I feel like it's not about changing the sport and making it something that it's not or something that it never was or making it unrecognizable. I feel like it's about keeping it alive. So, like, as a fan, don't you want to see your sport, like,
NASCAR used to be the 800-pound gorilla in the room, and then it went on a diet program and didn't look so good. It looked like an old guy with a lot of saggy skin. And,
it's like the Nuggets. Like, take the Nuggets, for example. Like, I don't know about you, but I am a huge Nuggets fan. I've been a Nuggets fan my whole life. Like, in order to win the championship, they had to do some shit. They had to take away players that we didn't want to see go, like faces that were Nuggets faces for years. They had to get rid of them. They had to bring new in so that they could put themselves on the map, and they have, and it's awesome and it feels good. Like, not saying that NASCAR's not on the map. I'm just saying, like, I think that it's cool that they are putting energy into making it into globalizing it, kind of.
I'm not a gardener. I'm just going to play one here on this video cast. It's like you have to cut away some of the old flower, let the new, young, stronger flower bloom. How's that for an analogy, huh? Especially from this guy. That's pretty good.
You are just like Ernest Hemingway.
Ernest fucking Hemingway, yeah.
You should write a book.
I've been told I probably should. We haven't ordered our KFH shirts, Kurt fucking Hansen shirts yet, but we'll get that on the budget.
We got to get on that. We're gonna sell it to our listeners. Sell it as merch.
We probably could. But I'm not sure that's. I don't know, but we gotta be politically correct these days.
Someone might have the trademark on that. You think? You think someone's already trademarked Kurt fucking Hansen?
Probably not. I'm gonna feel pretty safe with that. Yeah.
Well, okay. Any closing thoughts on NASCAR in the Chicago Street Race before we move on to some Indy?
Yeah, I liked it. I'd like to see it come back. If it came back to Chicago, that'd be fine. Let's.
They should bring it to Denver.
What's that?
They should bring it to Denver.
I'd love that, but it ain't gonna happen. Not gonna happen. We can't fix the potholes on the streets. We ain't gonna be bringing no fucking NASCAR race to Denver. But it's a nice idea. But final thoughts to wrap it up. Loved it. Hope they do it again. Maybe back in Chicago, or you got to get the city council and the whole city on board, and to get a place like Chicago to come on board was a big effort. So it takes a lot of time, and the Chicago race was in works for almost 2.5 years before they pulled it off. So maybe come back to Chicago next year, because unless something really bad happens, which I've not heard about, I think Chicago would embrace it again. I think the crowd would even be bigger. And then in that process, maybe find city number 2 to have another street race, maybe in 2025. I don't know, but I liked it. I thought it was a good move. It definitely got a lot of play in the media. And from what I'm seeing and hearing too, a lot of, first timers really came away with like, this is pretty cool. And I think it was a good thing to wrap it up.
Yeah. Well, right on. We'll talk now we'll move into IndyCar at Ohio, Mid-Ohio. Fill us in.
Bully for Graham Rahal. I mean, the season started dismally for their team. They couldn't find speed. They struggled. They ended up not qualifying at Indy, which, I mean, not having a Rahal in the Indy 500 is weird. It happened, it's happened before. But it's, what a turnaround. And they shook that team up pretty hard. And Graham qualifies on the pole and, had a really good race. And he did have a good race, albeit for one pit stop, which ended up kind of turning their day upside down. Could have won the race, but didn't. But Alex Palou now is, I think, 4 of 5 wins an IndyCar series this year. He's kind of doing something that is really eye-opening. And amidst all the rumors of him potentially going to McLaren next year, and then springboarding that to go to Formula One, or maybe go directly to Formula One next year, I think this is setting up momentum-wise to really make that happen. And I don't think that Ganassi will be able to retain him, because he could have this championship wrapped up before the end of August. I mean, their season ends, I want to say September, October at Laguna Seca. So he could have this thing wrapped up. Gosh, we're just early part of July. I mean, another win or two, and it may be mathematically impossible. I'm not doing the math. I'm not a mathematician, but another couple of wins, this thing may be bye-bye baby, but we'll see what happens. I mean, moto racing is a very weird sport. You can have all the charms, the gems, and the magic working for you, and all of a sudden it's like the genie, fell out of the bottle and can't be found. So we'll see what happens, but he's really making a statement. It looks like Rahal Letterman is back on track. Hopefully it'll stay that way. The big story of the weekend, Simon Pagenaud's 180-mile-an-hour crash on Friday, and that was pretty brutal. I mean, to see him, they said it was a brake failure. It certainly looks that way. And they're rebuilding the car if they can. But it was a horrible, horrible crash. I'm sure that's all over YouTube. And he walked away, and then he didn't get cleared.
Was anyone hurt?
No. I mean, he did get a mild concussion, so he was not cleared to race on Sunday. So Connor Daly happened to be there just spectating, hanging around. That's what all racers say. But it's pretty, you're hanging around and spectating, but you just happen to have your helmet, your suit, your shoes back in the hotel or in the bag in the boot of the car. And he stepped in and did a good job for Michael Shank Racing.
Is that a common thing that racers do?
Take their stuff with them everywhere they go?
Yeah.
Fuck yeah. I did it for a decade. I mean, I can remember once getting pulled over coming down the Donner Summit in my NSX going about 100 miles an hour. And I'd actually kind of outrun the cops. I knew Donner Lake area real well, and I was kind of jinking around. And
where's that at?
It's Lake Tahoe, basically.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And he outsmarted me. There's only one road in, one road out up to Donner Lake, unless I go back up the highway on-ramp, off-ramp, jump back as I, blister down the off-ramp at 100 and something miles an hour. But the guy was really cool. I mean, he was coming straight towards me. I was coming straight towards him. He looked at me. I looked at him. I just pulled over. He hit the reds, whipped around, came up behind me. He goes, well, that was quick. I said, well, what am I going to do? I was having fun. You caught me. Sorry. And he started laughing. I started laughing. And then somehow we started talking about, where I'm going. I'm going to the Trans Am race in Reno. And I don't know how, but I ended up opening the trunk, and there's my helmet, bag, and all my stuff. He goes, what's that? This is my driver's suit, my shoes, my helmet, all my stuff. He goes, are you going to race this weekend? I said, I have no idea, but I'm ready. And he goes, Boy Scout smile. He wrote me a very friendly ticket.
Oh, okay.
I mean, there were parts coming down Donner Summit that he even said to me, he said, I was flat and I wasn't catching you. He says, you must have been going really fast. What kind of car were you driving? Acura NSX. I've had two of them. It was my red one. He said, you must have been going 130, 40 miles an hour. I said, you'd know better than I would, officer. And I think he wrote me a ticket for like going 80 and a 65 or something. It was
Acura. What year was it?
92.
92.
NSX. Very silky smooth, very sleek, very cool.
Is that the same kind of car, in Pulp Fiction?
Yes, that is the car.
It is?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Nice. What happened to that?
I sold it. I've had two of them. I put a lot of miles on them. I drove them everywhere I could because the car was just such a wonderful, wonderful car. Should have kept that one, but I've had a lot of cars. Should have kept a lot of cars. But the drug addiction of racing. They go. Like women.
Yep.
Yep. When you got to do a complete rebuild and put a fresh motor and tires and transmission in them, you let them go.
Yeah. Except for some of them, like your wife.
That's right.
Stick around.
That's right.
Okay, well, why don't we move on to something a little bit more local?
Yeah.
show at Bandimere. Yeah, what are your thoughts?
Well, we're going to have Matt Hagan on the radio show today at 3:30 Mountain Time on AM 1600, ESPN Radio, and FM 104.3 The Fan, on HD Channel 2, and then, of course, streaming around the country and around the globe at racecentralmedia.com. It's I don't think it's set in, but it hasn't set in. But, when you work in our field and you've known for a long time that this is kind of coming, it's kind of like, but I have a feeling Sunday morning when John Bandimere Sr. Leads the prayer and the driver introductions and everything, it's going to be, it's good. I think it's going to hit a lot of people. And, huh?
Gonna tug on your heartstrings.
Yeah, it will. It'll be interesting, and it's sad because we make this joke before, but when I moved here in 2002, we had an IndyCar race, we had a Champ Car race, we had an AMA race, we had NASCAR Busch Series, we had Mile High Nationals, we had AMA Supercross, which I think we still have on the Hogback. There was a lot going on. And just through the course of time and mismanagement and poor decisions, it's all gone away. And it's kind of sad because this is, the corporate headquarters of the Motorsports Media Group, and we got no motorsports. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, there's good short track racing, pavement, and dirt. But in terms of bringing people from around the country, as IndyCar did, AMA did, NASCAR Busch Series, Champ Car in the streets of Denver. It's not just saying goodbye to Bandimere. It's kind of unfortunately, why we survive and do so well is the audience will still be out there. Ironically, right. In a weird way, I mean, it costs me money because I got paid. I used to have the most fun. We got the Pikes Peak International Hill Climb, but that's more internationally known than it is even known regionally in the U.S. And it's limited spectators, so it's not like you're going to put 80,000 people on Pikes Peak and have 3 hours of live TV. That's not going to happen. So it happens, but it's not happening. But in terms of the Big Five, let's put it. It's kind of sad because the Colorado and Denver market is suffering. But as I was saying, the fans are still out there. They still want to watch Race Central TV. They still listen to on the radio. So in a weird way, it's good for our audience. But in a sad way, I can't get out and engage with this audience, 10 times a year like I used to. And I enjoy that. But it's just not going to happen, Sid. See you later.
Another one bites the dust.
One bump.
Kind of thing. I know when we first said, when the news first came out about the them closing, there was rumors that they might be investing in something else or moving somewhere. Are there any updates on that?
No. Been radio silence, which is interesting. There could be a lot of reasons why that's happening. All I could do is speculate. But they pumped the brakes pretty hard on all that stuff when the announcement first came out. I think to take a little bit of the sting out of it. But there has been nothing. I mean, hopefully you'll be with me at press day in a couple of weeks, and we can talk to John Sr. or maybe John Jr., Sporty as we call him, and get an update. But it's radio silence right now, and I think that's being done on purpose, either because truly nothing is happening, or they're still working hard to get a deal done. I'd heard that they had 2 counties, and when they made the announcement that we are going away, I'd heard that one of the counties kind of was like, yeah, well, whatever, let us know. Immediately jumped back in and said, let's have a serious conversation. So they could be playing one against the other, which why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
We'll see what happens.
Gosh, wouldn't it be cool if some like mega millionaire came in who loved racing and just like bought it up or bought some land and then just like turn it into like a badass track.
Well, the Bandimeres have the resources to do that. I've not heard a sales number on that piece of property, but I'm sure it's a big pile of cash. But the only thing about, does the family still want to go through all the effort it takes to run and maintain a professional racetrack, even if they only build their husband rumor that they'll build a track for the amateur track, a sportsman track, and then work towards having, developing the track to start having, NHRA races. If they want to, because part of the early rumor was they'd like to have a sportsman track, a club track up and functional by next year, which they could do. There'll be no amenities. It'd just be a drive to a track, and there's a paved parking lot and a racetrack and timing lights. But if that happens, they need to break ground in September, October latest, because they got to start breaking that ground before the freeze and snow comes. Lay a concrete, because it would be a concrete track. Lay the concrete so it can cure through the winter months, and then start, rolling it early in the spring and get it race ready. So, I mean, the timeline to have a track in place by next year that is usable for amateur racing for sportsmen, clock's ticking. I'm not a contractor, but I'm speaking, in some ways metaphorically in a big brushstroke, but my timelines I don't think are really off.
So when's the last show? What day?
13th, 14th, 15th of July, if I'm not mistaken, or it could be 14, 15, 16. I don't know. Again, I'm not good with numbers.
So you'll be down there?
Yeah.
All 3 days?
Well, probably have to bug out early on Saturday because I'll be announcing up at Colorado National. But I'll be there Thursday press luncheon, hopefully with you, and then Friday for Friday night qualifying and get there a little early.
Wait, the Thursday press lunch is actually down there?
It's
is that Bandimere?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's a real shiny deal. A couple Subway sandwiches inside a 100-degree tent. Very, very first class. Yeah.
Wow.
NASCAR and IndyCar take you to 5-star restaurants, and we get Subway sandwiches inside a big hot tent. It's pretty neat.
Wow. Well, I am looking forward to that. We've got about 4 minutes here, so why don't we wrap things up with a little bit of World of Outlaws talk?
The way the season started and the way the season ended last year for Carson Macedo, and a lot of drivers, teams feeling that he was the fastest car on the track last year, but had some bad DNFs. Brad Sweet completed every lap to win his third in a row championship last year. Season started off with Carson really kind of being Mr. Quick, and Donnie Schatz back in the hunt. His Ford Motor Program last year kind of stumbled and fumbled, but he had a pretty strong run towards the end of the year. He did win his 11th Knoxville Nationals, but still, struggled with it. Obviously, Tony Stewart Racing has been doing a lot of work, because as I look at the standings right now, but and David Gravel also started off the season very, very quick. So it was Gravel and Macedo, and then Logan Schuchart. I mean, holy cow. But what is old is new again, because guess who's at the top? It's the number 49, Brad Sweet, the big cat, as they call him. And David Gravel, a strong second. But that's the way the season ended last year. At one point, Gravel was literally within, snatching a range of getting Brad Sweet. I don't think he took the points lead at the end of the season, but he was so close that any stumble by Brad Sweet, and David Gravel could have won the championship. I think when we left Kansas City, Lakeside, I think there was like 6 points separating them two with Brad Sweet in the lead. Brad Sweet ends up, holds on to the championship and wins his third in a row. But Gravel's right there. Carson, so it's Brad Sweet, David Gravel, Carson Macedo, Logan Schuchart, and Donnie Schatz. It's your top five. Kind of the same suspects that were doing all this and in the mix last year, except for one newbie, even though he's not a newbie. Logan Schuchart. I mean, this guy's super he's super talented, and they do it with not a big budget over there at Shark Racing. And his teammate Jacob Allen, Bobby Allen owns a team. Jacob's grandfather, I think, his grandfather or whatever, and
Father.
I tell you, there's some kind of family connection there, But I called the season last year. It's because I'm from Pennsylvania. Then back in the day, Bobby Allen, his deal was the Pennsylvania Posse. I said, this is the Pennsylvania Posse 2.0. Sprint cars are badass shit, and I got to find a way to get back to Lakeside Speedway in October or whatever the hell it is, and see that show. But it's a lot of travel, a lot of money for a one-day show. But I don't know. It's what can I tell you? It's rocking and rolling. And last fodder for the program. Marco Andretti, since his quote unquote retirement, even though he's not really retired, did Indy again this year, not successfully. He's done SRX, Tony Stewart's deal, but he's now just signed a deal with Nice Motorsports, and that's a team that our good friend Lawless Allen races with, to do some NASCAR truck races. So obviously Marco's keeping his toe in the water, whatever that means. But yeah, that's kind of the latest and the greatest. And Simon Pagenaud is okay. He'll be back in the car next time they're out. So, here we go.
Well, good update on World of Outlaws. What do we have in store for the show today? The show on the radio, Race Central, not unplugged, more plugged in, less unplugged on the radio. What's in store today?
So we're going to talk about a lot of stuff we've talked about more in depth on the program today with Matt Hagan. He and I have become really good friends over the past decade and a half or so. But we'll be on the show with Matt talking about Bandimere. We have a photo Joe Starr. We'll talk NASCAR. I guarantee he's going to, say all kinds of terrible things about Chicago, and maybe a few other surprise guests too. So all I can do is tell you to tune in if you're here in the Mile High AM 1600 or FM 104.3, the Fan HD channel 2 at 3:00. And if you're not, go to racecentralmedia.com, click on the Listen Live link, and you too can join the program.
Absolutely. And of course, and if you miss the radio show, you can always listen to the podcasted version of it, which I podcast the shows, and you can find that on denverfan.com as well under podcast and Race Central podcast. And
also on racecentralmedia.com. So we're kind of like, we can be seen anywhere. Stevie Wonder could see us and hear us.
Yeah. So if you want to find out what Joe Starr actually thinks, which I don't, I'm gonna put a prediction here that he's not gonna go so hard on it. I feel like he might like it. That's my prediction.
We'll see how that works.
If you want to know for sure, tune in to the radio or listen to the podcast, which is, you can find it anywhere. Kurt, I will be seeing you in the studio, the radio studio, in a few hours here.
4 hours, yep.
Yeah. All right. Well, that was episode 21. Kurt, it was good chatting with you.
We're almost catching up to your age.
I know. Yeah, we're getting there.
All right, kiddo. I'll see you at 3. Everybody out there, thanks for tuning in. Tell all your friends about the video cast, Race Central Unplugged, on YouTube or at racecentralmedia.com. And we get a ton of web traffic from denversports.com. So a lot of new listeners will be tuning in. So we are the longest running motorsports show on radio and television. So what can I say? People feel sorry for me. So keep sending money and keep the attaboys coming. Sid, I'll see you in a couple hours.
All right. Peace out.